All right, Shalom. First off, I'm going to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruchakodash. Yahweh being the Heavenly Father's true name, Yahweh Shai being the name of His only begotten Son. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles, the great millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. All right, this is the brother Masha, Mayum, one of the men here with the GMS branch. I'm here in the morning camp. Back again with another lesson through the Spirit, and pretty much going into balance and self-control. Okay. I might entitle it something along those lines, or challenging ourselves in some way, shape, or form. Right. And Lord's who, as I read these precepts, it's all edifying and makes sense through the Spirit. So let's start off with 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 27. And it reads, "But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway." Okay. And when you read it in the NLT, it says, "I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified." All right. And pretty much, this is Paul speaking of how he disciplines his body. Okay. And when you go into that word, keep under, right? The word keep under, it's the Greek word hypopiazo, and it means hypopiazo, or however you pronounce it, but it means to beat black and blue, to smite, so as to cause bruises and livid spots. But definition A is what stuck out to me. It says, like a boxer, one buffets his body, handle it roughly, disciplined by hardships. Okay. So you discipline your body and you put it in self-control in whatever way, shape, or form it may be, right? Even when you watch these boxers, you know what? A lot of the times they control their eating and what they eat, right? They go on a jog, they run, they work out, do calisthenics work, right? Different things, to stay in shape. And the point of the lesson is challenging our not trying, but doing it, challenging ourselves in whatever way, shape, or form. All right. Whatever brothers are trying or doing, whether it could be your diet, you want to have a balance in your diet. You want to eat more herbs and fruits, right? Taking in more bitter medicines, right? Or it could be working out. You more you exercising more, right? Or it could be hitting the fast on a certain day each and every week, right? But something, to keep us on that edge and to have a balance, is the point of this lesson. So from here, let's go to Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 2. And it reads, "And put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite," right? If you're given to appetite too much, that means what? Matter of fact, let's go into this word appetite, right? The word appetite on the Google definition, it reads, "A natural desire to satisfy a bodily need, especially for food, a strong desire or liking for something," okay? And applying it when it comes to the flesh and dealing with food and different things, or even overall just the flesh, right? It's different things that could, be weigh on us and be always have us having a strong desire towards it, So it said, put a knife to thy throat, meaning what? Cut it off, okay? And that could be anything, once again, right? It could be different vices. You might be doing it too much, or it might even be an imbalance in whatever you might be doing, whether it be screen time, okay? I know different brothers like to play games. I'm not saying that's what's going on with brothers, but just saying if that's the case, it could be the game, right? Or different things, whatever the case may be. But it said, put a knife to thy throat, and that's what it's all a way to help us gain that edge, right? And ultimately to what? To keep under subjection this flesh. All right. From there, let's get Let's get Proverbs chapter 25. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 28. It reads, "He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." Okay. We reading it in the NLT, it says, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. Okay, so when you picture that, the analogy I compared it to, a city that is without walls, anybody can come into it and overtake it and do whatever. Okay. So when you don't have no rule over your spirit, you don't have no self-control, anything can gain control over you and anything will throw you off of your focus. Okay. You don't have no control. You can't balance things out. Right. And that's not how we want to be. Okay. Because that can be detrimental to our walk in this faith. Okay. And because the spirit requires us what? To focus. Right. Because real quick too, let's get this real quick. This is Galatians chapter 5 and verse 16, and it reads, "This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh." All right. So hey, this is a commandment. All right. We are to walk in the spirit and not fulfill the lust of the flesh, and in order to do that more, right, to be strong at it, we gotta what? Like I said, put a knife to that throat. Whatever it is that, you notice you don't have a balance in, hey, put a knife to that throat. Meaning what? Parabolically, speaking, as it's written, cut it off. Okay. Maybe, and once again, I'm not saying, understanding the balance, of course, I'm not saying, just cut it off completely, but if you might have to, cut off the time, that you give to it, right? To be able to have a balance within it, practicing more discipline and self-control when it comes to it, you know. From here, let's go to Romans chapter 13, and jumping down to verse 14, it reads, "But put ye on the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof." Right. Once again, it's another precept showing you, we're required to walk in the spirit, and the spirit is what? These words, and Yahushua comes in the volume of the book. So this is another, precept showing you we have to put on as the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay. And the rest of it says, "And make no provision for the flesh," and provision means what? To provide. So, like it says, that's when you think of it, it's like providing food, right? Different things you might do, it's like providing food for the flesh. So you're feeding it. All right. And when you feed the flesh too much, then you can't. Now you're giving it leverage over you being in the spirit. From here, let's get the book of Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 1, and it reads, this is Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 1, "A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight." Okay. Hey, so a just weight, man, we want to have that just weight. If it's false balance, then hey, it's an abomination, that's which is what? Out of balance, and that's even like it says, it's an abomination unto the Lord. All right. So we want to make sure we have that control and that balance in everything we do, so that it doesn't throw us off, right? So that's the point. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to all you walking throughout the four corners of the earth, continuing to push and do the works in truth and in sincerity. Shalom.